So it's been about a year since I did my last full Blu-ray collection video, and you guys have been really requesting me to do more of it. Holy crap though, I mean, this is gonna be so long. How do you expect me to do this? I have so many of them. It's not nice of you to request this. But I'm gonna enjoy doing it anyway because I enjoy giving you guys what you want. So I'm about to talk about every single Blu-ray I have. Yes, even the ones that I mentioned in my previous video because I simply have to. I had to talk about all of them. I'm going to do it really quickly though and really briefly because if I go in depth with all of them, this video is going to be like 5 hours long. 10 Things I Hate About You, one of my favorite romantic comedies. Heath Ledger, Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the same movie, pretty awesome. On the Criterion Collection, 12 Angry Men, possibly my favorite movie that's filmed in black and white. I adore this movie. I've watched it so many times. It never ever loses steam to me. 50-50, a very funny film about cancer, which is very hard to do, but they pulled it off. Amazing performances, amazing script. Excellent, excellent movie. 500 Days of Summer was the first independent film I ever went out of my way to see. I'll never forget it. I drove like 30 to 40 minutes to this theater just because I wanted to see it. It was one of the first independent films I ever reviewed, and I'm glad because it's also one of my favorite romantic films. I've gotten a lot of requests to do a 2001: A Space Odyssey Analyze video. That seems like a very daunting request, but I will try to do it maybe one day. I can't guarantee it. We'll have to see how it goes. It's definitely one of my favorite Stanley Kubrick films. I love this movie. Air Force One is a very good action movie for a couple of reasons. For one, Harrison Ford and Gary Oldman are excellent in this movie. But it's also a very simple movie that understands exactly what it is. It's a claustrophobic thriller, and it uses those aspects to its advantage. The Alfred Hitchcock collection containing Rear Window, Vertigo, North by Northwest, Psycho, and The Birds. I love Alfred Hitchcock. As a filmmaker, he really inspired me a lot about how to build suspense. He really taught me a lot about that. He taught a lot of modern day filmmakers about that as well. Some of them used it fairly well for a while and then kind of forgot about it. Shyamalan. Anyway, Alien and Aliens. I do not have Alien 3, Alien 4, Alien vs. Predator, or Alien vs. Predator Requiem because I don't like them. But these are awesome. American Hustle. This movie, a lot of people call it very overrated because it got really good reviews. It got a lot of Oscar nominations and Golden Globe nominations, but I think it's an excellent movie with terrific performances. I dug the crap out of American Hustle. I think it's a movie that really has a great way of capturing the time period that it's set in, and that's something that's really hard to do, believe it or not, because there's so many little things you have to do and give the perfect attention to detail to certain things, and American Hustle pulled it off. American Psycho, one of my favorite movies, was sent to me by Chris Della Sola. He runs a YouTube channel called The Aficionados. I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly, but he sent this to me out of the kindness of his heart, and that was pretty cool of him. American Psycho is one of my favorite movies. I love this movie. It has one of my favorite performances of all time by Christian Bale, and I definitely think if you have not seen it, you're really missing out on a pretty awesome, twisted movie. Anaconda. This movie's terrible. Oh, man. But it's awesome. If you haven't seen Anaconda, you're missing out. Ice Cube with an axe to a snake head. You can't get that anywhere else. And my goodness gracious. Jon Voight in this movie. Little baby bird. I'm acting right now. Argo! I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun, but it was also a movie that also really captured its time period very well, like American Hustle did. And I thought that it was a remarkable movie in regards to its realism. And that's something that Ben Affleck does extremely well, is capture realism. His movies don't feel fake, the three that he's directed, and you're going to see me talk about all three of them throughout this video. AI, Artificial Intelligence. Steven Spielberg, not one of his best movies. In fact, I haven't actually watched this since it came out. I got it because it was only like $5 or something, and I am looking forward to seeing it again, but I can't really give you really in-depth thoughts on it because I honestly have not seen this movie in, I don't know, probably... Wow, when did it come out? 2001, I think? Yeah, I don't think I've seen this movie for like 10 years. I'm getting old. Avatar. I'll be the first to say this. Kind of overrated. It's a little bit like other films. Dances with Wolves, Pocahontas. But it's an amazing visual experience and quite a bit of fun to watch. And the stuff on Pandora is incredible. I mean, the human element to it's kind of boring, but as a visual experience, it's a really great Blu-ray. The Avengers, to this day, still probably the best thing Marvel's created. I love Captain America the Winter Soldier, I love the Guardians of the Galaxy, but the Avengers, in my opinion, might still have the nudge over them. Great Scott, Back to the Future trilogy, how could I not have this? In fact, it shocked me the other day when I realized I've never reviewed Back to the Future on this channel. I don't know what I've been doing for the past 5, almost 6 years, but I really need to talk about Back to the Future at some point in the future. All right, here we go, really fast. Batman. Batman Returns. Batman Begins. The Dark Knight. And The Dark Knight Rises. Enjoy all of them. I do not own Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Can you tell why I don't own those? And I would love if Batman Mask of the Phantasm would come on Blu-ray. That would just be really nice. Well, like, that's just your opinion, man. The Big Lebowski. This might be my favorite comedy. When people ask me what my favorite comedy is, it just might be The Big Lebowski. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I'm not going to spoil anything about it. Just watch it. It has such an awesome screenplay, and my God, Jeff Bridges' iconic performance as the dude will live on for eternity. Black Swan is an excellent movie, and not just because it has a really amazing scene in it that I really liked, but it's also a very well-directed movie. It's an extremely intense psychological thriller. Yes, certain elements of it definitely copied off of another film, that film being Perfect Blue, which Darren Aronofsky actually owns the rights to, which is interesting, but it's still an amazing movie with a terrific performance by Natalie Portman. Blade 1 and 2, I do not own Blade Trinity. But these two movies are a lot of fun. The first one is directed by a guy named Stephen Norrington, the second one by Guillermo del Toro. I actually might like the first one a little bit more, which is interesting because, you know, Del Toro did the second one, but I actually found a little bit more depth to be had in the first film. I do really like them both, though, and one of the things these films really remind me is that if you give Wesley Snipes the right role, that dude is badass. Now here's a movie you might be like, why do you own that on Blu-ray? What's the point of watching that movie in high def? Blair Witch Project, a movie that is filmed in terrible, crappy cameras, but I have the Blu-ray because it's kind of nostalgic for me, in all honesty. Like, it came out in 1999, and I remember everyone was talking about it in school. Everyone was like, dude, this movie, Blair Witch Project, like, it's real, man. You have to watch it. And I remember thinking, it can't be real. It can't be. I, of course, have the Bourne trilogy on Blu-ray. Amazing action movies. This is probably my favorite Ultimatum, then 1, then 2, but I really do enjoy all of them. Freedom! Braveheart. Love Braveheart. Now, this is the Canadian Blu-ray of Brick because last time I checked, it's not released in the United States, but it's released in Canada for some reason, and since Canada is Region 1 as well as US, you can play Canadian Blu-rays in the US, so I ordered Brick from the Canadian Amazon website. I don't know why it's not released in the United States, but here it is, and it works in the United States, so why not? Here's a horrifically cheesy 90s action movie called Broken Arrow that I love to this day. You're insane. Yeah. Ain't it cool? The Cabin in the Woods was a really awesome horror comedy that really was self-aware of itself and understood the genre. I loved seeing this at the screening. I got to meet the director and Kristen Connolly. She was at the screening as well. That was really cool. And I really enjoyed this movie, and I had to pick it up on Blu-ray because as a horror fan, I like a movie that understands how silly the horror genre can be sometimes. I have the first Captain America, and I will have Winter Soldier when it comes out because it's so much better than this movie, but I still do enjoy this movie, and I thought that for what it was going for, they did a really good job in what they were trying to do. Casino Royale to this day is still my favorite Bond movie. In fact, I don't even really view it as a Bond movie. Sometimes I can actually just watch Casino Royale and just view it as a movie. It's not necessarily a franchise film, in my opinion, because it was kind of like Batman Begins for Bond. It just started the idea of Daniel Craig as Bond perfectly, and it had some of the best action sequences, not just in the Bond franchise, but in my opinion, of any film ever. Wilson! Wilson! Best product placement in the movie ever. Catch Me If You Can is, I think, a pretty underrated Steven Spielberg movie, if you can ever say that a Spielberg movie is underrated because so many people watch them, but in regards to his filmography, I think more people need to check this one out. Clear and Present Danger, Harrison Ford. Damn it! Get off my plane. Dad! It's my Harrison Ford impression. Pretty good movie. People complain that Cloverfield gave them motion sickness. Well, I don't really understand that because I guess I don't get motion sickness. I thought it was a really well-made movie, and I think it's a pretty underrated movie, actually. Matt Reeves has since directed Let Me In and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. The guy knows what he's doing, and I think he did an amazing job with this movie. Clue the movie. I actually think this is pretty underrated and a very enjoyable movie. If you ever just want to have a good movie to watch with your friends, they're over, you got some popcorn, some candy, whatever, I think this is the kind of movie to pop in and have a lot of fun with. One of my all-time favorites, Collateral. I really need to do a video singularly on this. I really do, because this is one of my favorite movies. I don't want to talk too much about it now, because I think I'm going to do a video on this pretty soon under my favorite movies segment. Oh, please excuse my friend. He's dead tired. Commando. Total 80s action cheese. You literally can't find an 80s action movie that's this good while also being as bad as it is. Well, it ain't Mai Tais and Yahtzee out here, but let's do it. Con Air. This movie sucks. It's truly incredible. Con Air. You have to watch it if you haven't. Coraline. I want to thank my good buddy Ezra from Ezra's Huge Reviews for sending this to me. He's a really nice guy. This was directed by Henry Selick, I believe. Yes. And he directed Nightmare Before Christmas, which a lot of people actually just think Tim Burton made that movie, but it was actually Henry Selick, and he did a great job with this one. Crazy Stupid Love. Amazing chemistry between these actors. Really good dialogue, too. It was a way better written romantic comedy than most romantic comedies are. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Some of the best action sequences ever filmed. It makes me forgive anything that Ang Lee maybe ever did wrong. Hulk. Excuse me. I think I just coughed and said the word Hulk. Like the Hulk movie from 2003. Anyway, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I had a lot of fun with this movie, and I think that it is truly a beautiful, beautiful movie. If an action movie has ever been called beautiful, this is one of them. The Departed, or as I call it, The Departed. Fucking firefighters. Martin Scorsese's, possibly my favorite Martin Scorsese movie. I really love The Departed. I think it's a really excellent movie. A very unconventional way of telling its story as well, especially the way it concludes. Die Hard. Die Hard 2, Die Harder, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and Live Free or Die Hard. Those are the only ones I have. I'm pretty sure there's another one out there, but I don't care about that movie. In fact, what's it called? A Good Day to Die and Go Away Forever? Is that what it's called? I think that's what it's called. What? I'm in a movie and it's really good? What? Al Pacino. Dog Day Afternoon is one of Pacino's best. It's from his prime. If you have not seen it, it contains an incredible performance. It's also very suspenseful, which is something I didn't really expect when I watched this movie, and it really blew me away. Don John is also one of my favorite romantic comedies. Joseph Gordon-Levitt understands that genre and is very good at making ones that don't suck. Also, Donnie Darko is a very requested to analyze review on my channel. I get requested that at least once or twice a week. I may do that in the future because I really love this movie. I think it's definitely a great Jake Gyllenhaal performance, but it's also a film that is written and directed so well because it's one of those movies that's very confusing and you don't quite get it all the time. It's hard to grasp a little bit and you don't care as much. Because sometimes in movies like that, it's very maddening. But with Donnie Darko, you just want to examine it. You want to delve into it. You want to talk about it. You want to learn about it. And that's definitely a quality that's rare. Drive. You guys have heard me talk about this movie perhaps more times than you care to hear someone talk about it. Because I love it. It's excellent. That's all I'm going to say. Now here I have a combo pack with Dumb and Dumber and The Mask, two of my favorite Jim Carrey films from the 90s. Both hilarious. Both really well made. For what they are. You have to understand, for what they are, they're very well made, and I'm looking forward to the new one. I hope the new one's good. Please be good. Don't let me down. Eastern Promises. I think this is a very underrated David Cronenberg film with an incredible performance by Viggo Mortensen, as well as Vincent Cassel. Where is he? There he is. He was excellent in the movie, too. Edge of Darkness is, I think, a very underrated movie starring Gibson, directed by Martin Campbell. There are some boring segments. There are. But Ray Winstone and Gibson's performance in this movie, I think, are very powerful, and there really are some very intense, visceral segments. I don't think I've ever been thanked more for just one video than the video I did on Enemy, my explained review, and I just want to say to you guys, you're welcome. I loved making that video. It was hard to make it. It really honestly was. I did a lot of research for a few weeks, but I really enjoyed making that video, and I want to thank you guys for enjoying the video as well. Enemy is a film that's very confusing, but I think once you kind of take that key and turn the lock and decipher certain elements in it, you're really going to enjoy it. E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Fun fact, M&M's were the original choice for the candy that Elliot eats. M&M's turned down the product placement and Reese's Pieces got it. Can you believe that? What an idiot. And E.T. simultaneously made Reese's Pieces popular in the 80s. True story. Evil Dead 2, my favorite of the trilogy. I enjoy Army of Darkness. I enjoyed the first Evil Dead, but this is my favorite. This is the one that is, in my opinion, the most comically inspired, as well as the most visually inspired. And Bruce Campbell in this movie is perfect. Eyes Wide Shut, pretty underrated Kubrick film. His last film. Very confusing at times. A little bit too long, but still a very impressive visual movie, and also pretty suspenseful. I'm gonna take his face off. Woo-wee! I'm good looking. Sorry for all the impressions. I apologize. I'm not that good at them, but I enjoy doing them nonetheless. Field of Dreams is a film that I implore you to watch if you haven't seen it. Don't look at it and say, oh, it's a baseball movie. I don't like baseball. This is not a movie singularly about baseball. This is an incredible movie. I love this movie. It's so well written, so well directed, and has one of my favorite scores of all time. This movie gives me goosebumps in so many different parts. I'm about to break the one rule, guys. I'm going to talk about Fight Club. Excellent, excellent movie. I love this movie. It's very violent. But it's not violent in the way where it's like, look, I'm violent. Look at this blood. Like, it wasn't like that because I hate movies like that. I hate when they're like, look, I'm being really violent. Ooh, I'm violent. This movie understood the purpose of violence in the story, and it used it very well. I found a sticker on one of them. There are two types of people in this world. Those with guns and those who dig. You dig. Man with No Name trilogy. Clint Eastwood, iconic stuff going on here. Whoever said Jeff Goldblum should be in the Fly remake, thank you, because the Fly remake starring Jeff Goldblum, thank you so much for that, Jeff Goldblum. You're amazing. I love you forever. You find this man. You find this man. Damn it. Dad! The Fugitive. Great, great movie with a great Tommy Lee Jones performance as well. I don't care. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I really wish this movie was more financially successful because they were planning a trilogy and apparently they're not planning a trilogy anymore. Thanks. I talked a little bit about this movie in my Robin Williams tribute. Good Will Hunting had a humongous impact on me. It's an amazing movie. I love it. But Robin Williams, oh my God, the scene with Robin Williams and Matt Damon, I can't even talk about it. It's so well done. This movie is an incredible experience. If you haven't checked it out, do so. My favorite Pierce Brosnan Bond, GoldenEye. And not just because I grew up with the game and whenever they walk into a room, I'm like, oh, that's the facility. Oh, that's the bunker. Yes, that happens. And yes, that adds to it for sure, without a doubt. But Martin Campbell, once again, did an excellent job directing this film. The movie Ben Affleck made that proved to us that we're pretty dumb. Gone Baby Gone. Ben Affleck proved a ton of people wrong with this movie. Casey Affleck was also amazing in the film, as was Ed Harris. An amazing visual experience that will never be as cool as it was in theaters, but it's still pretty awesome to watch at home. Gravity, amazing visual effects. What was Sandra Bullock doing in space? I don't know, but the movie looks awesome. Now, I do own some films that I know aren't good, but I own them because I enjoy watching them. You'll see a few of those throughout this video, such as Anaconda, mentioned earlier. I also own The Happening on Blu-ray. If you've seen my Hilariosity review for The Happening, you already knew that. Oh, these bees are dying all over the place. What's going on? Come on, guys. Take an interest in science. Hellboy 1 and 2, two really underrated comic book films directed by Guillermo del Toro. I wish they'd make a third one. I hear they're trying to get it made. That would be incredible. Because Ron Perlman is Hellboy. He owns this role. Hey, guys. Check this out! Home Alone 1 and 2, the only ones worth talking about, the only ones worth watching. Super underrated Steven Spielberg movie. Hook, Robin Williams, incredible. Thank you for this movie, sir. Thank you for your films, for your acting, for your stand-up comedy. You're amazing. I love Hook. I want a potty. I want a cookie. I want, me, now. Hot Fuzz, one of the films in the Cornetto trilogy. Simon Pegg. Nick Frost. I almost forgot his name for a second. I don't know why. Here's a film I own for a special reason. Hotel Transylvania. I actually did enjoy this movie. I actually had a lot of fun watching it, and I thought it was a pretty good animated film. That being said, it was also the first date and the first screening that I ever took my fiance on. So it's kind of special, and that's why I own it. How to Train Your Dragon. When the second one comes out, I'll definitely be buying that as well. This was a movie that surprised so many people, including myself, because it was actually so much deeper and so much more richer than I thought it was going to be. Steady as she goes. The Hunt for Red October. I wish that title had an S in there, so I could be like, The Hunt for Red October. This is a pretty underrated thriller, Identity. It's the ending, maybe not, but I really enjoy everything else that leads up to it. Rarely am I really that into political movies, and for that reason, I was very impressed with The Ides of March because it actually interested me. Inception, of course I'm going to own this movie. It's an amazing visual experience and one that I will never forget seeing at the midnight show Thursday night. With a packed theater, I got goosebumps during the Joseph Gordon-Levitt fight sequence. It just blew my mind. The entire movie did. And the Jeff Goldblum love fest continues with Independence Day. Now that was a close encounter. I gave it a cold. The Indiana Jones quadrilogy? Yeah, I guess that's what you would call it. The fourth one, it has its problems, but it does have some good sequences as well. But yeah, disappointing as hell. The first three, though, are gold. I think, actually, there are times when Temple of Doom is my favorite. I know! But it's true. I do love all three of them, though, almost equally. It's like choosing a favorite parent or something. I don't know, it's hard. Have you heard of the Bear Jew? Inglourious Bastards is one of my favorite Tarantino films. There are days when I think it is my favorite. I can never quite figure out for sure, but the dialogue in this movie is just perfect. Insidious Chapter 1 and 2. The first film is actually one of the most suspenseful and creepy films I've ever seen. The second one had its moments, wasn't as good, but it's one of those things where when you watch the first one, I kind of feel like watching the second one, and it wasn't awful, it wasn't terrible, I actually did kind of enjoy it, so for that reason I own them both. Insomnia, probably my least favorite Nolan film, but that being said, it is a really good movie nonetheless. It's a crime drama, and when you understand that and you view it as that genre, like, okay, is this better than other crime dramas out there? It's better than quite a bit of them. Is it as good as The Dark Knight or Inception? No, but it's a different type of movie. Now, I do own the Iron Man trilogy. That being said, not a big fan of the second one. Even the third one has a lot of problems too. But I enjoy watching them. It's one of those things where it's not an awful movie. Like Iron Man 2 isn't like, you know, Batman and Robin or anything. So when I do watch the first one, sometimes I feel like watching the rest. That's kind of how it is. There are some movies in here where there's a series and I own one of them that's not as good, that I don't like as much, but sometimes I enjoy watching the whole series, even if one of them isn't quite as good as the rest. Jack Reacher, I thought, was a very well-directed action film with a pretty good performance by Tom Cruise. Christopher McQuarrie directed this movie as well as written it, which is why I'm excited for Mission Impossible 5, because he had one of the best car chases I've ever seen in this movie, in which Tom Cruise, as usual, did all of his own stunts, and it was awesome. Jackie Brown is my second to least favorite Quentin Tarantino film. The only film I like less of his is Death Proof. That being said, it is still a really well-written movie with some amazing dialogue sequences. It has some lull moments where you're like, okay, what's going on here? But for the most part, I do enjoy watching Jackie Brown. Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. Jaws. Amazing movie. You can't get better than Jaws. It's simply one of those movies where as you watch it, you're amazed at the fact that it turned out as well as it did, because there were so many problems in production. To this day, it's a very inspiring movie for me because of that. I actually have a Jaws poster in my room specifically for that reason. I look at it and I think, okay, look, Spielberg made that, even though everything was going wrong. And it helps me to realize that I can do the same if I really put my mind to something, and so can you guys. Inspirational moment, guys. Inspirational moment. Beautiful music. Okay, getting too cheesy. Let's talk about a shitty horror movie. Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2. I actually kind of enjoy these movies, believe it or not. I don't know what it is. They just have these creepy vibes going on, and they're not actually that poorly directed. I actually think there's a pretty good direction there. And yes, I know about his history and everything that happened, and yeah, I know. But nevertheless, I do enjoy these movies. Jurassic Park and The Lost World. I do not own Jurassic Park 3. Why is that? Because I do not like Jurassic Park 3, and it's one of those situations where, like I said earlier with Iron Man 2, sometimes I feel like watching it. I never feel like watching Jurassic Park 3, ever. That's why I don't have it. Spinosaurus. Kill Bill 1 and 2. As an action fan, as a fan of anime and Japanese things in general, these movies captured that so well. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, very underrated movie. One of Robert Downey Jr.'s comeback roles before Iron Man. Val Kilmer, though, in this movie. Val Kilmer is perfect. Hey, if you ever looked up idiot in the dictionary, you know what would be there? A picture of me? No! The definition of idiot, which you fucking are. The Last Samurai, I think, is one of Tom Cruise's best films. This is a movie directed by Edward Zwick with an incredible performance by Ken Watanabe. Layer Cake. A lot of people think this is a movie that got Daniel Craig the role of Bond. It was directed by Matthew Vaughn, who later did Kick-Ass and X-Men First Class. A little bit confusing, but it's one of those movies where you keep wanting to go back to it and learn more about it. All 4 Lethal Weapon movies on Blu-ray. Interesting story. I went to Walmart specifically looking for all Lethal Weapon movies. I didn't find them in the entire store. I was looking for the Lethal Weapon collection. And then all of a sudden, in the corner, where it's not supposed to be, I see this thing, like that, just laying there. I was like, what is that? And there it was, $12.96 for all 4 of them. Can you believe that? Daniel Day-Lewis as Lincoln was perfect. Seriously, he's just an actor who just understands how to do his job. And of course, as usual, Spielberg made a great looking movie. The Lookout, also very underrated. You're gonna hear me say that a lot because not a lot of people talk about this movie. And I think it's a really awesome Joseph Gordon-Levitt picture that was kind of made before he was getting a little bit more notice. This movie, though, it's one of those movies that sneaks up on you. You're not expecting it to be what it is until it shows itself. Looper, definitely the best thing Bruce Willis has done in quite some time. I mean, my goodness gracious. Yeah, it was like he was actually trying in this movie. The Lord of the Rings trilogy. Why don't you own the extended editions? Because they're filled with deleted scenes that Peter Jackson took out for a reason. In my opinion, they honestly kind of slow the movies down. There are some deleted scenes in the extended edition that I think are great, like the Mouth of Sauron. The only extended edition that I like more than the theatrical is actually Return of the King, because it shows certain things with Saruman happening. The Mouth of Sauron is also really cool. But Two Towers, in my opinion, just added like an extra 30 minutes of Merry and Pippin talking to a tree, and it didn't really help anything, in my opinion. The Machinist is a terrific psychological movie with a great performance by Christian Bale. And man, if you've ever seen pictures of what he did to his body, your mind will you're like, wow. Magnolia is a film filled with amazing performances, some boring sequences, because there are always going to be those stories you care about less when you have like these multiple ensemble stories going back and forth, but the ones that are great are great. Man of Steel, enjoyable film, kind of disappointing, had some terrible moments, the romance. But I enjoy watching Superman kick Zod's butt, and that was a lot of fun. The Matrix is one of my all-time favorite films. In fact, I like it so much that every once in a while when I watch it, I do feel like watching the other two, which is why I have them. Plus, it was super cheap. It was like $7 or something for both of them, and that's cool. Every once in a while, I do feel like watching some of the action sequences from the other two, and that's why I own them. By the way, The Matrix was actually sent to me probably, 3 years ago by a YouTuber named Tom Bailey-Otis. Pretty cool guy. Thanks, man. Another very requested analyze review is Memento. Guys, do you want my brain to explode? How would I even begin to do? I mean, I'd have to... Oh, it's backwards. The whole movie's backwards. Not a lot of people give Guy Pearce enough credit. In this movie, phenomenal. One of my favorite Spielberg films, Minority Report, to this day does not get old. I can watch it once or twice a year, and it feels fresh and new. And there's a lot of technology in it that is being utilized nowadays, like the swipe screens of everything. I mean, Spielberg even said recently, he was like, I wish I patented some of my ideas for that movie because I'd be rolling in it now. Wait, you're already rolling in it, buddy. Calm down there, Spielberg. You got a lot of money. The Mission Impossible quadrilogy. Yep, I got them all. This is the best one, by far. Then, honestly, I think I like the first one, then 3, then 2. I think that's how it goes for me. Moneyball. Screenplay. Oh my gosh, the screenplay in this movie is perfect. Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill proving that he can act. Great movie. No Country for Old Men. The ending, I kind of like it. You know why? Because this film has an excellent way of setting up its characters to a point where you just feel like you're observing things happen that are actually happening, but you actually are okay with certain things happening that do happen. Like, that's how I felt when I watched this movie. Oblivion I own because, well, it was $4.99 for one thing, but it's definitely a flawed movie, but it also is a very beautiful looking movie, and it looks amazing on Blu-ray, and it does have some cool sequences, despite some sequences that are kind of not good. I gave it a B when it came out, and I'll stand by that grade. The first Ocean's 11 is actually one of my all-time favorite movies. I just think this is an incredibly well-directed movie that kind of gets viewed as, oh, it's a big star-studded movie. Dude, this movie was directed incredibly well. Definitely one of my most controversial grades of the year. I gave Oculus an A-. Unsubscribe right now. Unsubscribe. Enter comment on Chris's video. Seriously though, I rewatched it on Blu-ray and I still really like it. I thought it was directed with a lot of skill and acted very well. One of the best child performances I've seen in a very long time from the young girl in the film. I thought that she did an excellent job, and so did Katie Sackhoff. Now, one of the movies I forgot to talk about in my Robin Williams video was 1 Hour Photo and Insomnia, which I already talked about. He is excellent in both of these movies. Very dark performances, but he really pulled it off. Only God Forgives. Super controversial movie. Lots of violence. Oh, you're a Nicholas Winding Refn fanboy, Chris. Oh my goodness. Actually, I'm just a guy who loves movies, and I like to talk about movies. That's what I do. And this is a visually explosive movie. I mean, like, it's just a movie that I want to watch because it just looks so good. And it did kind of stick with me a lot, and I did start to appreciate it more over time. I think a lot of the hate that was delivered to this movie was simply because people were walking out of the theaters going, I'm going to talk about this now, and not let it sink in. That was a mistake, I think, because Only God Forgives, in my opinion, pretty good movie. The Others. I love scary movies. I love when they're done well. There's a film called The Innocents that came out in the 60s. Very similar to The Others. But Nicole Kidman is great in this movie. It has a very good creepy vibe and a twist that kind of worked. The Patriot. Does it make sense? Nope. Is it kind of like pro-America? Yep. Is it well done? Mm-hmm. And Gibson's really good in the movie. It's my favorite Roland Emmerich movie by far. Patriot Games. Damn it. Harrison Ford. Dad! Dad! Junior! Come here, Junior. Shut up, Dad! I'm just gonna keep imitating Harrison Ford because I just love that guy. Paycheck, the director's cut, straight up edition. This is one of the only times in history that I've ever been like, wow, the director's cut was significantly better than the theatrical edition, because usually the director's cut is just where they just kind of put in some deleted scenes or maybe extend a few things. This is a completely different movie, and it improved upon everything. You may have heard me say this before, but sometimes you have to own a movie simply because it actually exists. The Phantom. Billy Zane. Purple Tights. What else do I have to say? Now, I do own the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, not the fourth one, because despite what I thought when I initially saw it, it kind of sucks. I watched it recently. It's not really that good. But I do love the first one. And every time I watch the first one, I like it so much that I kind of want to watch 2 and 3, because they're not like, oh my god, that was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. So I do kind of enjoy watching all 3 of them sometimes. One of the coolest experiences I've ever had in a theater was getting to see The Place Beyond the Pines at the Toronto Film Festival, knowing nothing about it, not seeing a trailer, no promotional images, not even a plot synopsis. This movie blew me away. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. It's a great movie to just watch without knowing. Predator is probably my favorite Schwarzenegger movie. In fact, it is. For sure. It's one of my favorite movies. I think it's actually underrated. Like, I know a lot of people like Predator, but not a lot of people actually give it credit for how well directed it is. That being said, I also own Predator 2. You know why I own Predator 2? Because it came with a $8 off coupon for RoboCop, and I knew I was going to go see it. So this was $7.99. The $8 off coupon for RoboCop, I was able to go see RoboCop for free, and I got Predator 2. I don't hate this movie. I like it more than Predators, in all honesty. Premium Rush was directed by David Koepp, who is primarily known as being a writer for films like Jurassic Park. But I really thought he did a good job with this movie. It had some incredible bike chase sequences, and Gordon Levitt, as usual, was awesome. My favorite film of 2013, Prisoners. I've loved this film ever since I saw it. It has an incredible quality to it, an amazing vibe. It's so well shot. Denis Villeneuve. Did I get it right? I had somebody email me who is actually speaks French, and he was like, here's how you say it. Did I get it right? I tried. Denis Villeneuve. I tried. The Prestige is a film that I should probably review at some point on this channel. Christopher Nolan did an amazing job with this film, but Hugh Jackman, Scarlett Johansson, and Christian Bale, the 1-2-3 punch of that combination, as well as an amazing script, and David Bowie also. I forgot he was in this movie. And of course, Michael Caine. A ruby, the size of a tangerine. Here's one of those controversial movies, Prometheus. I did a video called Prometheus Explained. It was my first ever analyzed review, and it got over 1 million views, and I didn't even know what was going on. I was so pleased with that. Thank you to anyone who's come to my channel because of that video, but it really started the idea of me doing these analyzed reviews, and I had a lot of fun doing them, and you guys have requested a lot of great ones, and I thank you for that. Pulp Fiction. This was sent to me by Daniel Rester, I believe. That's how you pronounce his name. Thank you for doing that, sir. You are awesome. Pulp Fiction is definitely one of my favorite films. I mean, for goodness sakes, it's a movie that it's just a bunch of people talking, but it's so well written. It also has one of the best product placements of all time as well for McDonald's. The Royale cheese. Give me back my son! Ransom. Mel Gibson. Great performances in this movie. Tarantino's first explosion in cinema was Reservoir Dogs, another movie filled with amazing dialogue and great sequences that you can never forget. A pretty underrated animated film that came out recently I thought was Rise of the Guardians. I think this movie looks incredible. The Blu-ray transfer is also really awesome, and I was really excited because I saw this for $5.99 and I grabbed it. I was like, oh, that's mine. Rise of the Planet of the Apes was a movie that surprised a lot of people because a lot of people were like, apes again? Have you run out of ideas, Hollywood? Some ways they have, but this movie was awesome. The sequel was even better. The Road Warrior, the only Mad Max movie I really care about owning. The first one's enjoyable, the third one's but this movie's pretty damn awesome. I love The Road Warrior. Gibson, also great in this movie. Amazing chase sequences, too. The best Robin Hood movie available, in my opinion, is Robin Hood, the Prince of Thieves with Kevin Costner and Alan Rickman and Morgan Freeman and Christian Slater. And what's her name again? Somebody from The Abyss. She's from The Abyss, that's right. The Rock. The only Michael Bay movie I have. I'm not a Michael Bay hater. I own The Rock. If I was a Michael Bay hater, I wouldn't own The Rock. A lot of his movies aren't really that good, though. Just letting you know. My childhood encapsulated into one film, The Sandlot. I've watched this movie more times than I can even count. I used to like stay home sick from school, and I'd be like, I want to watch The Sandlot, Mom. And I'd watch it. And I loved it. Every time spring rolled around, I wanted to watch it too because baseball. My favorite war film is Saving Private Ryan, Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg, a movie that is filmed with such authentic realism. I had a friend who went to the Iraq War and I talked to him about it and he was like, that movie, man, just got everything right. A Scanner Darkly is also a pretty unknown film by Richard Linklater, who is mainly known for his Before Sunrise movies and lately for Boyhood. This is one of his best films, in my opinion. Speaking of war-related films by Steven Spielberg, Schindler's List. I don't really view this as a war film, though. To me, Saving Private Ryan is a war film. To me, this is a drama that happens to be related to a war. That being said, by far one of the best films ever made. Yeah, I even have my own skate team. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. For me, an 80s and 90s kid growing up on Super Nintendo and N64, this movie was perfect. Secret Window, another film by David Koepp. I also think this is a pretty underrated movie. It has some slow parts, it does. And some aspects of the ending, you may be like, that doesn't entirely work. I think to this day, this is one of Johnny Depp's best performances. If you can't watch the last 10 minutes of this movie and say that guy doesn't know how to act, because my goodness, he knocked it out of the park in this movie. One of my favorite movies of all time, Seven. One of the best endings of all time. Some of the best directing of all time. Shaun of the Dead, another one of Edgar Wright's Cornetto trilogy. An incredible send-off on zombie movies. I would feel weird if I didn't own The Shawshank Redemption, because it's The Shawshank Redemption. What more do I have to say? It's one of the best movies ever made. I also own both Sherlock Holmes films. I think these are really awesome looking movies. Guy Ritchie did a great job with the direction. Red Rum. Shining. Jack Nicholson. ALS Ice Bucket Challenge winner for a long time. Trust me, he knew what he was doing when he did the Ice Bucket Challenge. He didn't really get to donate much though. Shutter Island is one of my favorite Scorsese films. Amazing performance by Leonardo DiCaprio and Mark Ruffalo. Without this movie, I wouldn't be talking to you guys right now. Signs is the movie that inspired me to get into filmmaking and to talk to you guys about films. And I'm really glad I saw it that day in the theaters because I don't know if I would be doing this right now if I hadn't. Clarice. Hello, Clarice. Silence of the Lambs is a good movie. I don't know why I just started singing. One of the best screenplays of recent years was Silver Linings Playbook, 2 excellent performances, and finally a good Robert De Niro movie. The Perfect Woman. The Goddess. Well, there's a fine coat you're wearing. Sin City. I really enjoyed this movie. And thanks also for all the great feedback on the skit that I did. I see dead people. And I see The Sixth Sense. A damn good movie that M. Night Shyamalan made. And honestly, the first 3 films he made, I think they each get better. In all honesty, I really do. But this movie is really great. And you watch it and you're like, where did that talent go? Man! Please make a good one again. Do you have any idea how happy I'd be if you made a great movie? It would be so great. Oh, Shyamalan. One of my favorite foreign films is The Skin I Live In. This is a movie that is extremely disturbing. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. All I can tell you is don't look up what it's about. Because not knowing is the best way to watch this movie. Skyfall is my second favorite Bond film after Casino Royale. I thought this was a beautiful movie. Incredible action sequences, an amazing performance by Javier Bardem, and Daniel Craig also pulling off possibly the best performance ever in a Bond movie, even though I do like Casino Royale more. Sleepy Hollow, a great Halloween movie, really good Johnny Depp movie, very good Tim Burton movie, awesome visuals, really creepy movie. Let's play some basketball. Space Jam. How did Bill Murray get into Space Jam at the end? I don't know. But, you know, it's Michael Jordan. I grew up in the 90s. You kind of got to own it, you know? One of my favorite Keanu Reeves films, in fact, probably my second favorite Keanu Reeves film after The Matrix, is Speed. I do not own the sequel because why in the world would I own that? This is a very remarkable action movie with a perfect plot. I mean, if you just summed up the plot, read the log line of the script, where it's just like, you know, the 1 or 2 sentence description of what the movie is. Bus, can't go under 50, bomb. Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock on the bus. It's perfect. Now here's a little bit of a controversial thing. I own Spider-Man 1 and 2 and 3. Why do I own 3? Because I like the first 2 so much that sometimes when I do watch them, I do feel like torturing myself and watching 3 as well. In all honesty though, there are parts of 3 that I like. I enjoy certain elements of it, and some elements of it are awful. For instance, the dancing and all that stuff is terrible. But I do enjoy like the first 45 minutes to an hour of the movie. And then when he gets all dancing and everything, it's like, okay, this movie has lost me completely. I also own both of J.J. Abrams' Star Trek films. I do think that they are both really well-directed movies and a lot of fun as a Star Trek fan. I do own the Star Wars films on Blu-ray. The changes annoy the crap out of me, absolutely. My favorite, though, is The Empire Strikes Back, and there's barely any changes in it. And for that reason, I enjoy watching it on Blu-ray. And yeah, I do own the prequels. Why do I own the prequels? I don't know. Because I'm a big Star Wars fan, I guess. And the Darth Maul lightsaber fight's awesome. Another David Koepp film is Stir of Echoes. The guy's actually a pretty good director. I like this film a lot. Kevin Bacon was great in the movie. Kevin Bacon. I don't have enough of his movies. Another J.J. Abrams film, Super 8. Did it copy off E.T. and Close Encounters? You could call it a copy, but since Spielberg produced it himself and was involved directly with it, I would say it was more of an homage. I don't know who you are, but I will find you, and I will kill you. Taken. Taken was a film that really surprised me, because it came out in January. I was like, this is gonna suck. But it was awesome. And Liam Neeson really propelled his career in a different direction just from this movie. One of the best performances ever and one of the best directed movies ever. Taxi Driver. Now I have Terminator 1 and 2. Obviously I like Terminator 2 more. I know some people like the first one more, but Terminator 2 to me is just the best. This was also sent to me by Chris Del Sola, who also sent me American Psycho. His channel, as I said, is the Aficionados on YouTube. If I said that incorrectly, once again, I apologize. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I love Terminator 1 and 2. I think that they are excellent movies, both of them. But the second one just has, like, so much more put into it. It was actually one of the movies where you could tell, like, okay, the more budget and everything actually made this movie better. You sniveling ass. Stop your nonsense. Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood, one of the best performances of all time. John Carpenter's The Thing. You may look at this and be like, oh, the original Thing, good job. You don't have the new one. This is actually the second Thing. The original Thing was called The Thing from Another World, and it came out in 1951. This was John Carpenter's vision of that film, and my goodness, was it better in every way. One of the best remakes ever. I have Thor 1 and 2 because I'm a Marvel dude. I like Marvel stuff, and even though they're not as good as some of the others, I do enjoy watching them from time to time. Now here's two more films that I know really aren't that great at all, but they're nostalgic for me, and I enjoy them. I have both of the Tomb Raider movies. I mean, there are a lot of reasons why I enjoy these movies. You know, her being really attractive is definitely an element to it, but they're kind of nostalgic for me, and I do have some films like Anaconda or The Phantom that are not really that good, but I enjoy watching them. And in all honesty, I will say this, in regards to video game adaptations, not too bad. Of course, you're in a crowd of a lot of crap there, but that is saying something. Welcome to the party, Richter. Total Recall. I love this movie. One of the best almost death sequences ever when his face is like blowing up and his eyes are popping out. It is so great. I love it. I could listen to Arnold Schwarzenegger scream forever, and I guess that sounds kind of wrong. Rounding out my trilogy of Affleck-directed films, The Town, another great Boston movie. Also, very authentic movie. Felt very realistic. Jeremy Renner also pulling out a great performance here. Now, of course, I have the Toy Story trilogy because how could I not? The only other Pixar film I really want to get is The Incredibles, but it's actually kind of hard to find on Blu-ray. I saw it at Best Buy today for like $35, but I don't want to spend $35 on it. That being said, Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 are amazing, amazing films. All three of them excellent. True Grit, starring Jeff Bridges. That's my Jeff Bridges impression. Did you like it? Thanks. Unbreakable, super underrated movie and a fantastic M. Night Shyamalan film. Two amazing performances as well in this movie. I really, really love this movie. I might do a review for it someday because it is one of my favorites. It took me forever to find this Blu-ray, Under the Skin. I couldn't find it in any stores in Ohio. Seriously, I called so many different places. Eventually, I had Best Buy order it for me from their website. I got it for $14.99. That was pretty awesome. The Untouchables is, I think, a pretty awesome movie directed by Brian De Palma. Kevin Costner is great in the film, as is Robert De Niro and Sean Connery. Great performances all around, and very good action sequences as well. War Horse. I'll be honest about War Horse. I honestly have not seen this film since theaters. That's true. But I saw this for like $6 and I was like, okay, I'll watch it again sometime. I am a big Steven Spielberg fan. I recognize this movie has flaws. It's not one of his best films at all. I don't think it's a great film. I think it's a good film. That being said, I do want to watch it again soon. Speaking of good Spielberg films that aren't great, War of the Worlds. This film would be so much better if you eliminated one character, Justin Chatwin's character, and not just because I hate Dragon Ball Evolution. I'm being serious. If you took out that character in this film, it would make a lot of sense. It would have wrapped up the stupid, cheesy ending a lot better. And it would have just been father and daughter. And you can tell they were trying to make it like, here's Dakota Fanning and Tom Cruise. The other guy's not in the movie. Because as a character and as a performance, it just didn't work. You take that character out of this movie would have been a lot better. There are a few times that I cry in movies because usually it's forceful. But in this movie, my goodness, my eyes were pouring. Warrior. Watchmen, the director's cut. I'll be honest about this one. I saw it for like $5. I grabbed it. I have seen it once when it first came out, and I don't really remember much about it because I only saw it the one time. I do want to watch it again, though. We Bought a Zoo was a surprisingly good movie. I know, it looks cheesy and terrible, but I actually kind of enjoyed it. Cameron Crowe did a good job with the movie. It has some good performances, and it is a pretty heartfelt movie, and I don't think it's too heartfelt. You know, I think they hit the right note. We Were Soldiers, I also think is a pretty good war film. Gibson's great in the movie. It looks very good. And it is pretty touching. Where else can you see Nicolas Cage punch a woman in a bear suit? Nowhere else but The Wicker Man. I have this movie simply for that reason. It's really funny. It's a great party movie. It will make your friends laugh, I guarantee it. The Wolf of Wall Street, one of my favorite Scorsese films, one of DiCaprio's best performances, if not his best. Wolf of Wall Street is an incredible movie. It's so funny, too. That was one of the biggest surprises, was just how funny it was. And rounding out my Edgar Wright films, I have The World's End on Blu-ray, which is a film that I think is a little underrated, actually, because a lot of people think it's not as good as Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead. I can agree with you, but I really love watching this movie for the absurd action sequences and the amazing visual comedy directing techniques that Edgar Wright is so good at. The Wrestler. Can you see anyone else in this film but Mickey Rourke at this point? He owned that role, and he actually made me respect wrestlers a little more than I had. Now, as a big X-Files fan, I do have both of them on Blu-ray. I Want to Believe was not very good and pretty disappointing, but the first one I still think is really good as a fan of the show. Alright, let's talk X-Men. I do have X-Men. I do have X-Men 2. Do Not Kill Me, I have X-Men 3. I also have X-Men First Class as well as the Wolverine. I do not have X-Men Origins because it sucks incredibly, so bad. I hate that movie. X-Men 3, let's talk about that. Not really that good. Pretty disappointing. That being said, I am such a big fan of these films that I do want to watch it every once in a while, simply because I enjoy the films and the characters so much. And I do not think it is an awful movie. Like, it's like a 5 out of 10, you know, so I feel like every once in a while I can watch it. Zodiac by David Fincher, Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, 3 hours long, damn good. And Robert Downey Jr. Check it out. Zombieland. Pretty funny movie, great zombie action, pretty good cameos too. Won't spoil it for you if you haven't seen it. Well guys, those are all of my Blu-rays. All of them. Except for my anime Blu-rays. Because I want to save that for another video in which I talk about my anime collection. Would you guys like me to do that video? Because I will. If you would like me to, let me know, because I would enjoy talking about my anime collection, because I have a fairly formidable one at this point, and I'm building it. I've been building it, and it's stacking up. But I didn't talk about any of my anime Blu-rays in this video. I just talked about my films. My goodness, this is going to take forever to edit. I hope you guys appreciate this video and that you enjoy it. And thank you so much for watching, as always. Really, honestly, truly, thank you, as always, for watching, guys. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.